Well, it's that time of the year, a couple of days, you know, before September. By the time everyone sees this, it'll be September, a month out from the NBA season starting. And this is what our second edition, right? Yeah, we've done this before. Yeah, where we're sort of looking at picking the top six teams of each conference and ultimately teams that are guaranteed to make the playoffs, not the play-in. Play-in's a whole nother cup of tea, I think. So now it's not picking the top eight, picking the top six teams that we feel are going to really cement themselves in that playoff spot for the upcoming season here. And yeah, look, I guess you can start off, man, with the list here for the West. Who do you got in your top six?
It's it's I felt like the West was far harder than the East. I feel like the East is still top heavy or it's kind of settled. So in the West, I've kept the Nuggets as the number one seed. I feel like they kind of demonstrated last year that the regular season is manageable for them. They have really potentially the three-time MVP kind of running the show there. They've got some young guns. There's that championship swagger. And I feel like they're going to act like they're still just respected. They didn't get the respect that they deserve. And I think they're still going to have that chip on their shoulder, and that's going to help them. Number two, I'm going to go with the Kings. I think they're going to continue that surge that they had. Their pace is what caught people off guard, but I don't think people are going to prepare for it as well as some analysts may say. I think they're still going to successfully score against people, and ultimately that is the goal of basketball. I've got my beloved Suns at number three. I recognize that Brad, KD, or Booker will miss games and miss games at different points, but that star power, I think, a defensive mindset with Frank Vogel taking over the helm, I think we're going to be okay for the regular season. And there'll be a recognition as well that we don't want to end up playing the Nuggets maybe in the first or second round, or we want to make sure we have a bit more home court than we actually did last season. So that's where I think the focus will come from. Memphis has slotted into four. They're a young, talented regular season team who will be out without, Ja Morant for at least 25 games. And I think that's why they're going to sit at about that four spot, unless we're about to see, a real culture shift with the players that they haven't brought back. And number five, I've got Dallas. I don't know why I have Dallas. I have no faith in this Kyrie and Luka combo, but we're kind of we're looking at Luka, or at least, I am looking at Luka in the same vein as LeBron James. There's so much talent there. How does it not come together? And with a full season instead of just 15 games, perhaps they can figure out a way to be more successful in the regular season. They've also made some really good role player moves as well. It's not exclusive to the Kyrie and Luka pairing. It's now the pieces they put around them. And then lastly, I have the Lakers in sixth. I know that they're a very talented team at the end of last season, post the trade deadline. I also have to recognize that AD is a year older and injury prone, and LeBron is a year older. And every time I want to rule him out, he just comes back stronger. But I think the Lakers across 82 games may or may not get exposed a little bit more than they would hope. I believe they'll be in the playoff picture. I'm more confident about that going into next season than I was the year prior, but I don't see them any higher than six. And those are my top six.
I think you got an interesting list there. As I go through my top six, I love our conversations kind of focus on that tail end of that list, isn't it? And I don't know about you, as you sort of alluded to when you looked at all the names in the West here, that it was like, you know, there are teams here that probably could or should make the top six, but you only got six spots. I don't know. That's how I felt, right? And there's clearly some teams that I guess we'll touch upon in a minute that are not in our top six, but they really could be in the top six if one thing goes their way in that sense. So look, let's break it down. Firstly, number one, I have the Denver Nuggets at number one too. Yeah, like you sort of said, it's a bit boring, right? But I think they're really right now, head and shoulders in regards to consistency above everyone else. You would expect they probably just go out there and roll out another, I don't know, 58 wins or something like that, close to 60 win mark. As long as no one gets injured, obviously, that's always the sort of footnote there. But Nuggets here, obviously, with the number one seed in the West. I've got the Kings also at number two. It feels like they can probably replicate what they did last year. The key is that can they win a playoff round? Yeah, that's now their benchmark. And if they don't, then now they play some level of, well, how good is this roster? Is it time to swing a trade? I don't know. And what sort of trade? What are you looking for to get them to the next sort of level? But the fact that they probably go out there and win at least 50 games again is probably realistic. the players just have to simply do what they did last year to a greater extent, and they probably can play, achieve that goal. Number three, I have your Phoenix Suns. Look at that. I got you at number three as well. I know a lot of other lists that have gone out there. So, that this time of the year, everyone's sort of putting out these sort of lists and thoughts that they probably got the Suns rated higher. Yeah. Maybe number two in some lists, number one even in some lists. And I guess you guys have the talent, but like you alluded to, injuries is a big part of, I guess, the concern, I guess, in Phoenix. I think the other area there is defense, right? Do you guys have enough defense to to stop other teams in that sort of sense, or like we've touched upon, are you guys just trying to outscore teams every single night? And how successful will that be? So, look, top three for you guys in that sense. Now, this is where we've got three more picks that are totally different. I have Golden State at number four. I'm shocked you don't have them in your top six. Okay, and maybe you can share why you don't have them in your top six, because they're healthy. Yeah, they're gonna have hopefully Andrew Wiggins back for a whole year versus last year where he missed pretty much the whole second half of the season due to personal reasons, and that there's no reason that they as far as I'm concerned, can't be top four and grab home court advantage here. I was feeling that I could maybe even push them up a little bit more, but they're probably not too stressed whether they are finishing second or third or fourth in that sort of sense in the West. But I think that again, everyone stays healthy. They brought everyone back. Jordan Poole's the only difference here, but Chris Paul coming in from a talent perspective is no downgrade there. It's a matter of fit, I guess. And I guess it's I think the Warriors here are going to continue to roll into the finals. Playoffs again, obviously next year. At number five, I have your number four, the Memphis Grizzlies. I think I wanted to put them higher. I actually said that I think they're going to win the West, right? Or I think my recording was, I think I said they'll make the West Finals. Okay, I think I said they'll make the West Finals. And look, I still feel that way. I think Memphis are primed for a breakout year, and it's a level of maturity that has to occur here. Okay, a level of maturity that Dillon Brooks is gone, a level of accountability that bringing Marcus Smart to replace him, a level of Ja Morant is out for 25 games, so they're going to have to deal with that. But when he comes back, he'll be fresh. He might be rusty, but he'll be fresh. And the talent's still there. And look, I could be totally wrong. They could totally implode, with this sort of situation, but I don't think they will. But missing Ja for 25 games might put him a little bit sort of in the middle of the pack for much of the early part of the season, and then now they're chasing the teams ahead of them. So look, I got them at number five. At number six, so the last spot here, obviously in the West, I have OKC. And look, again, it plays similar to like the Kings somewhat, and some of these other teams. They're primed to take another step. And again, they just missed the playoffs last year, the top six, I guess, in that sense. They were play-in team, okay? And I think, it's feasible for them to show continued growth with their youth, all right, and SGA leading them. Chet Holmgren obviously now healthy and slated to play, that they win, I don't know, another 5 games, okay? And obviously push themselves out of that play-in spot. But look, it leaves a lot of names that, that are not on my list and ultimately not on your list. I don't know. What do you think about my list?
You're totally right about the 6 spots. I think you convince yourself that one's going to be better than the other. So the OKC reservation is that youth aspect, and obviously the integration of Chet, if that's going to lead to the success they want. But you're totally right. SGA kind of had that bloom. They were right on the cusp last year. Minnesota, we both kind of just snubbed, but clearly they're talented enough. And, there's that murmur around from the Denver Nuggets players that they were the hardest matchup that they had. So clearly there's some talent there. And, Cat playing more than 28 games is probably going to benefit them too. And maybe an extra year of Gobert, they figure out something. Admittedly, he looks to be on a bit of a decline. Golden State, look, I think that Chris Paul pairing is terrible. I do not think that's going to work too well. And I understand that they're conventionally healthy, but Clay has an Achilles and an ACL injury that he is not improving on. Draymond is very specifically niche to their system, and I don't think that that's translating well. I don't have as much faith in them as you do. I think they'll be good. I just think they might have caught lightning in a barrel that year that they won, and I think that may be it. The Clippers, the Clippers faith. The Clippers could easily be top 4. They could. I don't think anyone really has confidence anymore to vote for them. their two best players do not play. Westbrook's going to help the regular season and really carry that load a little bit, but they didn't make many other moves. They're very much tied up in their salary, and they're kind of really hoping that those two players come back healthy, and that's not going to end up being what it wants. New Orleans, if Zion comes back and Ingram is healthy, then they might start off the season like they did last time, and they're number one in the West. That's not unfathomable either. Again, it's just you can only do certain conversations so many times. I don't know if you find this, but I find like suggested videos of podcasts from a couple of years ago, and I found the JJ Redick one with Zion Williamson, which was 3 years ago. And like the tagline is like Zion Williamson discusses diet and rehab and all that. And it's like, so the conversation hasn't changed in 3 years, right? So it's not like his situation is going to be too different. Houston, I don't think they'll be a playoff contender, but they've clearly made moves that change their cellar dwelling to maybe like prickly in a play-in. I don't know. I don't know if you'd vote them up that high. And man, I'm probably forgetting a team, right?
Look,
San Antonio will Wemby
if you're
help.
forgetting them, then they're not worth even in this conversation. I think that's the point, right? And but you're right. Look, Lakers. I don't have the Lakers in my top six, and it was like I was sitting here, and I think I'm banking on that, and I think you're gonna have to agree with this that LeBron and AD are probably not gonna play 70 plus games. All right, someone's gonna miss a bunch of games. Now, the Lakers are now going that the third option is what Austin Reeves, and how far will that take him? And this is not a knock against Austin Reeves, but he's like great player, and obviously earned his paycheck in the playoffs and so on and so forth, representing Team USA right now. But if you're saying now, all right, will Lakers finish in the playoffs as top six, as Austin Reeves as a sidekick to either LeBron or AD? There's more talented teams out there. I think that was the logic that I applied there. So, you feel they're playing that conversation for that 5 or 6 seed, maybe ultimately landing the play-in is probably where I've got them. But, they're sort of fragile in that top-heavy sort of roster still somewhat, and their aging roster there too. But you're right about the Pelicans. That was probably the hardest admission here. Because there's probably, is Zion going to play from game one? Like that's the point, right? Is he ready to go? And no one knows. I think there's very little news and chatter about him right now and where he's at. And like you alluded to, for 3 years now, it's been like that. Yeah, you never know if he's going to play, and then you hear he's going to play, and then there's a setback, and then he sits for another 20 games, and then you get him for 5 games, and then he's out for another 20. I don't know. So, but it was like if I was like, okay, Zion's going to be back, Zion will give them 50 games. Okay, all right, optimistically, all right. Now you're going, well, could the Pelicans be like the 5th or 6th seed? Yeah, and I think that's a realistic conversation, which there's talent around them, but Zion's the cornerstone of that franchise. Brandon Ingram's a great second option. CJ McCollum's a great vet on that team as a shooter and a third option, right? But saying that the McCollum and Ingram led Pelicans is going to be a top 6 team, clearly it's proven it's not the case.
And I think all of these teams that we've slated in the top, Denver, for example, having Jamal Murray sit out, any of the Phoenix Suns' big three missing too many games as expected. Injuries do play a big component of it. But yeah, look, I think the Clippers situation and the Pelicans specifically, that is a narrative that we've talked about for multiple years now, right? The Kyrie and Luka thing, that's a gamble on my part, but we did see a small enough sample that hopefully over 82 games, they figure that out better. And that would be what I'm banking on. But the joys of these is that we might be completely wrong, and that's okay because opinions are allowed and safe, and it's a good space.
This is Two Guys with Spare Time. I'm Faz. This is Nick. You're probably a basketball fan like us, so hopefully you can throw us an assist and giving our video a like and subscribing to our channel.
And if you got thoughts, feelings, or even some suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. And thank you for using your spare time to watch us in our spare time.